Hey,
Hi, Lee.
hi,
Nice to uh, Hi. Nice to meet you in person. I have heard about you for a long time, and it's a pleasure to connect. Quick intros. I am in San Francisco this afternoon. Where are you located?
Carbondale, Colorado.
Excellent. Right in the middle of fantastic rock climbing and the outdoors in the Rockies. Would love to kick off with a quick intro. Where did you grow up? What do you do? How old are you? And what did you have for breakfast today?
Well, I'll start with the breakfast. I typically don't eat breakfast. I eat, well,
Okay.
I kind of eat I guess you could call it a brunch because um, I, I pretty much adhere to intermittent fasting, keep my weight down. So I don't eat for at
Hmm.
least 15 hours after I eat dinner. So that means that I don't start eating until around the earliest I'll ever eat is around 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning. I grew up in Long Island, New York, a town called Roslyn. Um, Throughout my teenage years, I was into sports, but I had no idea what climbing was or anything about climbing. So I was into football, baseball, pretty much every sport that was available at the time. I did like the outdoors. I went to camp for about 4 years where I did a lot of outdoor activities. Um, my profession wasn't always this, but it has been for about 40, let me think, since 1980. So about 45 years, I've been a tax professional. I do income taxes for a living.
Great. And how old are you, Lee?
I am 77 years old right now.
Great. 77 years young. Thanks for the background. To add to it, what's your background with sports, and where did you begin rock climbing? And just summary, what brought you to where you are today?
Um, so I've, let's see, I would say that became very attracted to the outdoors almost immediately after I got out of college. So that would have been back in 1968. And so from 1968 until about 1978, I predominantly hiked. Well, hiking, I did some sort of like scrambling mountaineering type of stuff, but nothing with ropes or anything like that. And I got introduced to rock climbing in around 1978. And the reason why I got into it actually is very interesting because at my time, my girlfriend at the time, we were taking a 4 month trip in my camper, and
Mm.
we were in Boulder, and we decided to climb up the Flatirons, or actually on the side of the Flatirons. And I ended up just me, but not her. I wandered out on one of the Flatirons. I think it was the first Flatiron. I just wandered out on the face. I don't know why I did that. I just started. Next thing I knew, I was actually in fifth class climbing, and I didn't know how to
Mm.
climb really. And it was probably, I'm guessing it was
Mhm.
about 5'6", 5'7" climbing, and I was terrified. And I thought I was going to die.
Mhm. Yeah, isn't that like a lot of? Is that like one of? If you live in Boulder, that's like a popular the Flatirons. I think at least one of the scrambles on it is often done free solo style. Like people don't use ropes, and it's like a kind of a fun activity these days.
Well, I noticed some people later that day that were rope climbing. I think they were being guided, And I was like, oh, it's interesting. People use ropes. Um, but anyway, after I managed obviously not to die and got off that first flat iron, I decided that I liked the idea of climbing, but I don't want to ever do that again. So I hired a 18-year-old kid that a friend of mine told me about to teach me. I
Mhm.
can't remember his. It's
Okay.
been too long ago. Anyway, he took me out climbing in Santa Barbara, and he taught me how to, how to tie into a rope and how to climb. And I think we did top roping. And at the end of the day, he asked me, "So what do I think?" I said, I don't know where this has been all my life. I am completely
Mhm.
hooked." So at that point on, I pursued the sport um, fairly religiously.
Sure, sure. Sounds like there was some fascination, some fear, some intrigue the first time you began the sport, but I think soon after, maybe like the rest of us, it became an enduring obsession. And I guess 35 odd years later, you're still climbing. I want to talk a little bit about your history with climbing. And one thing I want to point out is you climbed, the lofty grade of 514. I think at the age of 59 or so.
That's correct.
So I don't know if I don't know. I mean, maybe I heard this somewhere else, but do you think you still might be the oldest person to have climbed this grade?
No,
And then also to a non-climber, how would you describe like the 514 grade? What does it maybe to somebody who understands running or a different sport? How difficult of a grade is 514?
well, I mean, these days, 514 is not that amazing of a grade because people now, for the last 15, 20 years, have been just training in gyms. And um, I mean, there were gyms back when I did it when I was 59, but that was 18 years ago. And the training methods were not as sophisticated either. And people weren't starting as young either. So, but
Hmm.
514 is a hard grade. It's hard for most people, for 99.9% of the climbers out there. Um, but there's different types. So probably just like there's different type of races for runners, for example, skiers
Hmm.
climbing a particular grade like 514 or any grade for that matter can be very power oriented, can be really short. I've tried a number of them. Back in New Mexico, I actually got on 514, and it was so short and so powerful that there was no way I could do the moves. It wasn't even. I realized that if I was going to do a 514 or anything or even 513s, that they're going to have to be
Hmm.
endurance oriented, which is what my strength has always been, is endurance climbing, not necessarily power climbing.
For sure. I understand that you also ran quite a bit, or were a runner, so to speak, before you began climbing. Did you also run with the same aplomb?
No,
And then did you continue running post?
I entered some competitions, but I've never been very good at it, or very fast anyway. So basically, almost my entire time I was a runner, I did it for being fit and recreational, and I enjoyed running in the mountains.
Got it.
So yeah, but I didn't really compete that much.
Sure. Going back to some of the milestones in climbing that you take some pride in, would love to hear about maybe some things you that brought you a sense of accomplishment that also took you a lot of hard work.
I'm sorry, what was that last thing you said? What?
And that also took a fair amount of hard work.
Yeah, I guess when I started to really get into climbing, even when I was in Santa Fe, which has been 25 years since I've been there, and I lived in this house there for 5 years. So starting 30 years ago, I've always had a home wall. I built my own wall, and I started training
Mm-hmm.
on my own wall. And then when I moved to
Mm-hmm.
Carbondale, the first thing I did was build a climbing wall in my garage. Especially then, including now, there wasn't any training
Mm-hmm.
facilities. Actually, back then there weren't any. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to make my own training facility, or I had to go outside and climb. And yes, I put in a lot of hard training and hard work to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish my goals. And I would train specifically to do certain routes in a specific way.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Over the years, I have had a couple of coaches. I don't at the moment,
Sure.
but
Absolutely. And any other accomplishments that you were proud of besides obviously sending 514?
well, there's a lot of routes in rifle that I found to be quite challenging. Actually, probably the hardest um, effort that I've ever put into a route, mostly because I was not very experienced at the grade at the time. So my first
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
13D route,
Mm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
at that point, I only done 13C. At that point, I think I had already climbed maybe two 13Cs, maybe three. I can't remember.
Sure.
And those didn't really take me that long to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, actually, it turns out that in rifle, some of the 13Bs, B as in boy, took me longer than the 13Cs. I've always told that to a lot of people,
Mm.
just probably because of the
Mm.
style of
Interesting.
the climbing. But anyway, this first 13D that I tried in rifle or anywhere is called the Bride of Frankenstein. And it's actually
Yeah.
fairly short. It's not super long, but it attracted me because I could do all the moves pretty quickly, and the challenge is putting them all together. And the problem that I had with that route is that I tell everybody that I had zero strategy. I didn't really have a strategy. I just started getting on the route and seeing how well they did. So I'm guessing I probably have the world's record for how many times I could one fall the route and still not have done it. And it got to the point where I did it so many times, even with one fall, because my strategy was I would warm up on exactly, and I still see people to this day do this kind of stuff. And I've told them not to do it. It's like I'm not told how to tell
Sure.
anybody anything. I just suggested that maybe they should change their tactics. Um, it was sort of like just banging your head up against the wall to try and accomplish something. So what
Mm-hmm.
I was doing is warming up on exactly the same routes. It didn't matter how I
Mm-hmm.
felt. It didn't matter what the weather was
Mm-hmm.
like.
Mm-hmm.
It could be really hot. It could be really cold. It didn't make any difference. I did the exact same warm ups, and I go to the route, and I tried it two or three times in a day. Well, I wasn't getting anywhere. I just kept one following a route and not getting anywhere. And finally, it dawned on me that if
Mm-hmm.
I ever want to send this route, I need to come up with a strategy. So that's what I did.
Sure.
So what I did is I put up a route in my garage that was similar but not quite as hard.
Ah.
And I told myself that until I can do this route in my garage, which is pretty hard,
Mm.
it's a hard route. I finally did it. And I said, now I have to do it at least three times with only a 5 minute rest in between.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I will not get back on the real route that I'm trying to do on the bride
Mm-hmm.
until I accomplish that. So I finally accomplished that, and I went back on the route. And the second day I got back on the route, I did it. So
Wow.
that I learned that I need to have a strategy, and I need to have an
Sure.
so so
Yeah,
I,
your replica training paid off.
yeah. Well, so I also did a similar strategy. I had a different strategy for. I mean, some people think this route is 14A also in rifle. I mean, a lot of these routes in rifle that are rated, I mean, a lot of people think they're probably somewhere else in the world be 14A anyway. But the hardest route I ever did,
Isn't rifle like known as the land of 13 Ds? You know that these routes that should have been upgraded
yeah,
to 14A are sandbagged
yeah,
and are stuck at
yeah.
that 13D grade.
One famous route there is, which I sort of did, but I can't say that I did it. Most people think it's 14A. I don't know about most people, but a lot of people think it's 14A. It's called Living in Fear.
Oh yeah, it's
And I can't,
hyper classic, I
right.
think.
I can't say that I did it because when I was working it 2 years in a row, I was working that route. And it got wet in the fall when I was getting close to being in red point mode.
Hmm.
And the bottom got wet only the first 3 bolts. And so I couldn't climb the first 3 bolts. And so twice, I'm not sure if it was the same year. I think it was 1 year, and then one next year, the same thing. Got wet again for some reason in September. Most people, call it September.
Tough luck. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Tough luck.
twice I went from the third bolt, which actually it's not really that hard. I mean, it's hard, but it's more like 512 the first 3 bolts or 4 bolts. I pulled through to the fourth bolt, and I went from there to the chain twice.
Oh wow.
So I think I would have done it had it not got wet.
Sure.
So I didn't really do that one. The other one that's next to it that some people have actually, I think Tommy Caldwell originally called it 14A.
Okay.
Present tense.
I've heard of
That's
it.
13D, and that's the hardest route I have done in rifle.
Okay.
In that one, strategy
Got
was
it.
that I after I did my first 13D, I decided that my strategy for hard routes like that was going to be that I'm giving myself a goal, and the goal is how many days of work should it take me to do the route. So
Sure.
I already accomplished a 13D in rifle by giving myself 10 days to the route, and I knew this route was going to be harder. So I gave myself 15 days to do this route. So what that does, it's interesting how it motivates you, because if you just get on the route, getting on a route to do it, a lot of people are like, well, eventually I do the route. I'm not really thinking about it. But if you give yourself a goal, at least it worked for me, of say 15 days, I got to my 7th day and realized that I need to start working on certain sections of the route. And I can't just get on the route when it's super hot, because I'm going to waste a day. I want to do it in 15 days. So anyway, at 7 days on the route, I realized I got to get off this route. It's getting hot. It's in the summer. I get off the route. I started training instead of training on my wall, by the way, I think I might have trained like maybe once a week on my wall, but out at rifle, I purposely got on really colorful routes because I felt like I needed to up my power in order to do this route, because there's really hard crux up high on the route.
Sure.
I was having a really hard time with it. So for 2 months while it was hot, I got on all kinds of hard routes in rifle that are 13B, 13C, 13D. Some of them I did, some of them I didn't do. And then when the temps dropped, I got back on present tense. I ended up doing it on my 14th day.
Nice. Just within the within your allotted time window.
Right. And when I got
Yeah, no, I can see that you are a strategist, and I think with climbing, people are famously lackadaisical about their approach, and people will say, "Hey, I'm just going to get on this route, and I will try it until I send it." But I think you were the contrarian, which is, "Hey, this is the amount of time I'm going to give myself, and I'm going to prepare myself with all of this training, so that when I actually get back on this route, I actually have a reasonable chance of meeting my objective."
Well, I felt completely different after that training that I did, getting more power, because this one
Yeah.
crux that I had a hard time with before, on the first 7 sessions or so, I'd get on that route. I'd get up to the crux, and even on the dog,
Hmm.
maybe I could do that move 1 out of 3 times. So that's not a
Mm.
good, because considering that it's probably mid 513 just to get to that move, and there isn't any
Sure.
really great rest right before it. So
Hmm.
I realized that I upped my power. But when I got back on the route after training for it, I knew right away I can do this route, because it felt completely different.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. The before and after effect, pre-training to post-training. That's great. Uh, yeah, that's great summation. I'm curious, Lee. You were embarking to try these hard routes, and you have some of these firsts to your name. Were there naysayers? I'm sure there were. There were
Sorry.
probably people who thought that you could not be climbing this hard, or maybe there wasn't actually a precedent of people in their 50s, sending 30s and 514s. So wondering if there was some kind of like belief you had, uh, some conviction that I don't care what other people are saying, or if there isn't like a precedent here. I believe in myself, and I know that I can achieve some of these uh, climbing goals, even if they haven't been done before.
About my age, about the age threat.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, okay, so I was a late starter. I didn't even start climbing until I was 33 years old. So, and I didn't really think about age until I got close to 50. So, probably around your age. And I was like, okay, here I am. I'm getting close to 50. I wonder if all of a sudden I'm not going to be able to climb hard anymore. So, those thoughts did occur to me. At the time, I didn't have anybody to look up to that was older than me that was climbing as hard as I was climbing. But I decided that, well, I'm not, why don't I just not think about my age? Who knows what's possible? Let's see what happens. Well, as soon as I turned 50 and into my 50s, I noticed that, probably because I didn't start until I was 33, and then I hadn't really trained very much. I just climbed. So I was not a sport climber until I was about, oh God, let me think. That was that was like the mid 80s.
Hmm.
So I'd only been climbing for about 7 years or 8 years when I started becoming
Hmm.
sport climber.
Hmm.
So I was only 40, 41. Before that, I was doing nothing but trad climbing. So, I did a lot of trad climbing. And I think that
Hmm.
maybe what might have helped me, in the future for sport climbing, is that when I went trad climbing, the conventional wisdom was that you don't fall,
Yep.
especially on bolts, because back then the bolts were not reliable. There were
Hmm.
star drills. There wasn't, there were shitty bolts, and so when sport climbing came around, I mean, so I that's made sure that he didn't fall whenever I was trad climbing. I did some pretty big trad climbs. Climbed El Cap. I've done the west face of El Cap. Um, I climbed the rostrum. I climbed Astroman. Did all these classical long trad climbs. So
Yep.
I built up a lot of endurance.
Yep.
And then when I first started sport climbing, I was afraid to fall even on the obviously the same poles. And my friend, a really good friend of mine, used to make fun of me all the time. He used to go, I used to say, "Well, I fell there." And go, "No, you didn't. You're not. I've never seen you fall, Lee. You just take." And so I would battle the pump as hard as I could, and I think that helped me build endurance. And then finally, I got over obviously the fear of falling on bolts, and so back in the mid '80s, late '80s, that's when I really got into sport climbing because it also fit my lifestyle better. Because that's when I started my business, this that I have now, that I still do,
Yep.
Texas.
Yep.
It required me to be
Yep.
around, and I couldn't go traveling all over the place and doing these track climbs and I wanted to build up my business. So sport climbing came along, and that just fit my lifestyle at that time.
Lee, it's funny. You started trad and went to sport. I started climbing sport back in the East Coast. At the New River Gorge and the Red River Gorge.
Well,
So when I
I love
came
the Red River
to,
Gorge. I've been
sorry.
I love the Red River Gorge. I have been to the Red River Gorge at least 15 times in the West.
Sure. No, I don't think anybody, even the most, dyed in the wool trad climbers will go to the red and not love the red. It's just, it's such a playground. So I started climbing, and when I came to California, I was maybe, extremely stoked on sport climbing, and then came to San Francisco, and the best kind of climbing was trad. So I was a reluctant trad climber, and I've done like some of the routes that you just mentioned. And I had the opposite problem where I got so used to falling on bowls that when I got to trad, I had a hard time not taking the same approach, which is like I would take falls on gear. And as a new learner, I think that sometimes terrified my partners, where instead of
Did you ever
hanging on
pull on
gear
you?
and
Did you
sorry.
ever have any gear pull on you?
I have, when I first started, I did have a big fall before I even learned. Before I made some really bad Gumby mistakes
Mm-hmm.
before I even learned to place gear properly. I did have a kind of a dramatic accident, which I came out fairly unscathed. Once that happened, I went back to the books and learned how to basically climb trad in a safe, proper way. And since then, I don't think I've really had any gear come off. And I think I also became a little bit more careful about not always, whipping on gear. But I don't think I have ever had any significant gear. But coming back to you, um, any uh, actually, just continuing on the climbing trajectory. So you were climbing maybe at your physical best, let's say upper 50s, maybe. Now, over the last, let's say, 2 decades and leading up to now, so today, so to speak, what's your level of climbing, and how do you train?
Okay, so my level of climbing right now is none. And the reason for that is because, as a lot of people that I know me, about a little over 2 months ago, I needed to have major back surgery.
Oh,
So I am still in the recovery process. It's been, let me see, what is today? Is the 19th. So I had November 7th, I had my surgery. So I'm about almost 2.5 months out. I have a follow up in about 2.5 weeks with
Okay.
surgeon's office. And at that point, I'm
Okay.
hoping that they'll give me the go ahead to start training again for climbing. Back on
Okay.
the age thing, to give you a little more of a history, is that when I thought I was going to get weaker at 50, and right at that time period, that's when I moved up here, up to Carbondale. Well, actually, a couple of years after
Hmm.
that, I think I was 53. And I noticed that I was getting stronger, not weaker, because I started to train more methodically,
Hmm.
and which I had never really done that much. And so I was training more methodically, training power, campus sporting, stuff like that. And I noticed I was getting stronger and better. So a lot of it also has to do with getting better too. So I think that one thing I realized as I got older, and like I told you, I started changing my strategy.
Hmm.
And I think an advantage
Hmm.
of older athletes, depending on who you
Hmm.
are. I mean, some people figure this out when they're in 20 years old, but most of the time not. Is that
Hmm.
you learn more about conserving energy. You learn more about
Hmm.
training, what works for you, which doesn't work for you. You work on your technique. You have more patience on a route in terms
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
figuring it
Yeah.
out. Whereas typically when you're younger, you just go for it, and you don't necessarily have necessarily a training method or anything. So I think that's
Hmm.
an advantage of being older. But at any rate, I can for whatever reason I got better and stronger in my 50s, and so I would say
Hey.
I probably peaked at 58, 59, 60. I was climbing my hardest.
Sure.
But then
Sure.
at 60 years old or so, that was 2006 and 7. So I guess I was 60. I had both my hips replaced because
Oh
I had
wow.
severe hip arthritis. And so I
Okay.
didn't climb very much for quite a while. Well,
Hmm.
actually, I did. They were about 7 months apart. So the first hip surgery, it was climbing season, and I obviously I couldn't climb for a few months. And the second hip, it was ski season. So again, I couldn't ski until maybe two
Hmm.
months later. But after that hip replacement, I got back at 60. I was at that point, I was 61 or 62. I did a couple 13 Cs after the hip surgery. So that's the highest grade I've done after my hip surgeries. But I did
Okay.
notice at 65 that I wasn't quite as strong as I used to be. I was still able to climb up until see 65. I was still climbing mid 513s,
Hmm.
but it took me longer to do them.
Sure.
And then when I hit 70, that was 7 years ago, I had to have my first back surgery. And after that,
Sure.
I don't believe, I think I have not broken back into 513 again after 70. So last summer, when I was very incapacitated because of I had spinal stenosis, severe nerve pain shooting down
Hmm.
my legs. I couldn't even walk anymore.
Oh wow.
Um, and I got to the point where I couldn't climb anymore. That's when I decided I needed to have surgery. But at that point, even though I was fairly compromised, I was still climbing 512. So that was my level when I quit. And my plan right now is if I can get back into it again, I'm hoping to be able to climb some 512s again.
Sure.
I don't know about climbing harder than that. But again, the
Okay.
attitude is anything's possible. So I'm not going to, age is just a number. You know, if you
Yeah.
tie yourself to your age, then, you're actually defeating yourself. So,
Certainly. No.
So the other,
Yeah, no,
the one
you.
I want,
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
other thing I wanted to mention that I feel like, which is not climbing per se, was I decided for my 70th birthday I was going. I don't. I think you know who inspired me at the time was Alex Honnold and oh, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, Alex and this other guy who's very famous. His name is just escaping me right now.
A sport climber or track climber or Adam Monroe,
No,
maybe, or
American. Tommy Caldwell.
like Jonathan.
No,
See,
Tommy.
Tommy
So
Caldwell. Okay.
Tommy and Alex went down to somewhere in South America and did the first traverse of a very serious traverse.
Oh, the Fitz
Yeah.
Traverse in Patagonia, I
And
think.
so that
Yeah, yeah.
inspired me not to do that. But,
Mm,
and I also had read an article about the Tetons and the Teton traverse. So
mm,
I decided that for my 70th birthday, my present to myself was going to be I was going to train the year before to be able
mhm.
to do the Teton traverse. So in August of, well, 7 years ago now, I did the Teton traverse. And I, according to the
Got it.
Rangers, I'm the oldest
Congrats.
guy to have done that.
Sure.
Everybody has done my
Sure.
age is, and it was harder in a way than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Well, it's very exposed, and you can't rope up for some of these pitches. We roped up for some of it. I went with this
Sure.
guy that I knew who used to be a guide up there, and we did it together. And it was super exciting to be able to do it.
Sure. Sure. That's impressive. Something that you said earlier about training. My hardest send, so to speak. Nothing like yours, but I did a couple of 513As like a decade plus ago. And I remember back then I was doing some campusing and whatnot. And the last few years I've been hampered by this bad shoulder injury. I've osteoarthritis on one of my shoulders, and at this point, I'm doing some rehab. So it's inspiring to know that I thought I would never get back into that kind of aggressive training again with campusing, etc. But I think many of us would find this inspiring that one can get back to these modalities in one's 50s
Mhm.
and even beyond. So I think that is certainly very encouraging. You did many things right, Lee. Obviously, you were embracing cutting edge training methods. You were quite strategic. You were a planner with your climbing. Perhaps any things you think you could have done differently to make for even better outcomes. Maybe it could be with your training, it could be with your diet, perhaps, or anything else with your lifestyle that could have yet been improved upon.
Over what I've already been doing,
Yeah, like if you were to go back, let's say 20 years, 25 years, and tell your younger self that, hey, why don't you start doing ABC or stop doing XYZ? What would that have looked like?
well, okay, like I said, I didn't really have much of a strategy up until I was about 53 or 54 years old. I just threw myself at roots. And so, yeah, I think what I would do differently now is I would have trained more specifically on my wall in my house. I would have probably built a canvas board for myself because I think that that's very beneficial, as well as hang boards. But back, well, even then when they were around, I didn't necessarily use them very much. Um, I also did some stupid things that I wish I did too.
Mm. Okay.
Well, so I actually injured myself pretty badly. I finger injury from overuse because I started. This was before hangboards. I used to hang from my fingers on door jambs with weights hanging from me, and my fingers started
Mm.
hurting.
Right.
And I thought that that was a good thing. My
Sure.
fingers were hurting. Well, and then I took tons of ibuprofen on a climbing trip. That was a 2 week climbing trip, so that I could get through it. And I just figured, well, no big deal. I'll probably be sore after the climbing trip, but I'll probably be fine in a couple of weeks. I was very wrong
Hmm.
about that. I was very injured. It took me 6 months for my fingers to heal. And that was
Oh
quite a
wow.
while ago. Um, I think there's one rooted rifle that I wished I would have stuck with. I know that I could have done
Okay.
it, and I gave up on it. And I was, I wouldn't say I was close to doing it, but I was doing really well on it. But there was, if there's one thing that always discouraged me, it was power moves. So if I got shut
Mm.
down on a power move and I couldn't do it and I couldn't figure it out, and even after I trained for it, I would kind of give up on it. I noticed that there were other people who climb similar to me, not necessarily they're necessarily better or worse or anything. They just stick with it. They just figure it out. They
Mm.
continue to work on the crux. And I remember that, you know who Emily Harrington is, right?
Yes.
So she was working on this one rooted rifle, and she worked on it for quite a while. And she had worked it out really well, but she could never get through the boulder problem at the bottom, and neither could I. I had
Mm.
already given up on the route a few years before, and she kept working on it, training for it. She wanted to do the route, and she eventually did it. And so that's one thing. Even though I have a lot of patience, I think I should have had more patience when it came to powerful routes that check down.
Got it. Well, sure. Yeah. You were probably still maybe in the 90th percentile when it came to patience and persistence, but there is always room for more.
Always room for improvement.
Makes There's always room for working harder and being more persistent.
So I'd say now,
Obviously,
well,
go
I was
ahead.
going to say, so diet wise, I've always been very strict about my diet. So I don't know if I would do anything different. I've been very much
Okay.
organic.
I was about to actually ask you to kind of talk about some things ancillary to the actual climbing that have helped you or hurt you. And I wanted to ask about your diet, what's worked, what's not worked, and then also if you supplement your diet with other things.
I do, and I have. So I have experimented over the years with all different types of diets. And I know there's a lot of. So here's my thing about diet. For one thing, one diet does not fit everybody. Everybody has different genetics, different things that work for them and work don't. So the biggest thing about diet is to figure out what works for you. I've had some people say that if they eat vegan, for example, they just feel low energy all the time. And I don't know whether that's psychological or whether it's genetic or whether it's true, you know,
Mhm.
or what it is. All I know is for me, at one point, I was a strict raw food vegan for 4 years.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Oh wow! Okay.
That's yeah.
For those of us who don't know, could you describe
That's
that?
the most radical diet I've ever been on. Is raw food vegan for 4 years. I did ate no cooked food. nothing but nuts, seeds, veggies, salads, whatever. And then at one
Sure.
point, I was just a vegetarian. I didn't want to eat meat. Then I became a pescatarian and ate fish. Then I married a woman who's very much a meat eater. And then eventually I just started eating meat. And so, anyway, my personal experience with diet is as long as you eat well, for me, anyway, it doesn't make any difference. I feel like my energy level is fine no matter what I eat, as long as I don't eat garbage or overeat. So I also eat, I wouldn't say 100% organic, but as much as I can. I eat organic food as much as possible, fruits,
Yeah.
veggies, meat. The meat that I eat is I will not eat inorganic meat. I just won't do it. Except on very rare occasions,
Okay.
you go out to dinner somewhere at a restaurant. So yeah, but um, so yeah, I just find that um, diet wise, I just make sure I eat really well and don't. I mean, everybody's different again. So like when I'm climbing, for example, some people like to eat like a lunch. They like to eat a sandwich.
Yeah.
They eat a big lunch.
Yeah.
And people have asked me, well, Lee, you're doing all these climbing. Don't you feel like you should eat? No, I eat a little bit. I'll eat a bar, or I'll eat some a small bowl of fruit or something like that. I feel like if I eat a big meal or any kind of normal lunch, like a sandwich or something, I can't even climb anymore. I can't climb hard. It just bothers me. But
Yeah.
other people are different, so I wouldn't say that one.
Yeah. No, I think I'm the same way. I like to graze when I'm
Right.
climbing, and it's just like you like little snacks through the day. And I know that if I bring a packed lunch, and even if I tell myself that I'm gonna only eat portions at a time, I am I don't have any self control. So if there is a if I bring a like a burrito or a sandwich with me, I'm probably gonna scarf scarf through the whole thing, and then I'll feel like a slug for the next few hours. So I think a lot of us would do well to subscribe by that. Hey, eat a healthy breakfast before you go climbing, and then just eat enough to have sufficient energy outputs through the climbing day, and then one can replenish
Well,
with
one thing I do
a balanced
that
meal.
is pretty much routine that I do is, like I told you, I don't really eat much in the morning, and eventually when I do eat, I make a smoothie. So I blend.
Ah,
So and I put stuff in my smoothie. So
sure.
we get to the supplementation stuff. So I put protein powder in my smoothie.
Okay.
I'm pretty much convinced that we need to eat protein.
Is it do you take like whey or vegan pea protein?
I eat pea right now. I've been on using pea protein for now a couple of years. Before that, I was doing whey
Okay,
protein, and I just decided that I like pea protein better.
got it.
So, and my smoothies are just fruit, some yogurt, orange juice, blueberries, frozen blueberries and pineapple, and that's it. And then I add some other powders, glutamine to my. It was good for recovery. I don't know how well that stuff works really. So I've done a lot of experimentation with some more serious stuff. I didn't find that they did anything for me. So I've tried
When you say serious stuff, what is some of that stuff?
testosterone.
Oh,
Mm. So now in the
interesting.
world,
Okay.
but I've actually, for a brief period of time, I was this one person health professional was convincing me that I should do injectable testosterone.
Why do you think they advised? Was it like a health condition or performance goals
Supposedly,
that they were
according to
trying
this
to?
person, it's just it's to do inject yourself with testosterone when you get older. It keeps your a lot of things going stronger, your libido, whatever.
Oh,
But the only thing that I noticed, which are two bad things, nothing good, by the way. I didn't get any stronger. I was using it for a couple of years. My wife
mm.
told me that I got angrier, which was not pleasant for her. And the other thing that happened, which is even worse, is that my PSA levels skyrocketed.
Ah, oh,
Mm.
the prostate. I think
Prostate specific
indications,
antigen
right?
is what
Prostate
that
cancer.
stands for. Prostate
Got
specific
it.
antigen. So your PSA levels, which
Yeah.
means you're supposed to be typically under four, level of 4, and I went up at one point to a level of 9.
Ooh.
And the I had to go to a urologist, and the urologist was telling me that um, I can't remember what he told me I needed to do, but at the time I was thinking, well, maybe it's the testosterone. So I stopped doing the testosterone, and this has already been like a number of years ago,
Sure.
and
Sure.
my PSA levels dropped all the way back down to normal. So
Oh wow. So the testosterone contributed to the PSA level rise.
yeah, I also at one point tried some HGH, human growth hormone.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't know that was. Isn't that like a banned substance or?
Well, it's banned for competition athletes, but you can get a
Okay.
prescription for it probably from somebody.
Mm, mm,
Also, some people smuggle it in from South America or whatever. I don't know where they get it, but they told me that the amount that I was taking was not strong enough to really do anything, and it's very expensive. So injectable testosterone is not that expensive.
sure.
HGH is very expensive. So anyway, I tried that. The other thing I've
Mm,
tried, which a lot of people use, and again, I don't find that it
mm,
does anything for me. Matter of fact, it has a negative effect. But some people swear by it, which is
mm.
creatine.
Oh, okay.
And so I tried that, and I find it had a negative effect. So a lot of these performance enhancing drugs, I don't find they do much of anything. So I just stopped taking. I don't,
Creatine seems to be widely embraced these days. Actually, I take creatine sometimes.
mhm.
I used to lift. It's been a long time. Then I used to take more creatine, and now I take creatine now. And I do know that I get slightly more ripped when I take creatine, but then I stop taking it, and I just I think all of that water weight it just kind of drains back down. So I can't really say if it helps performance with climbing
Yeah,
much.
see, I can't really say any of that stuff that I've taken over the years. It helps my performance. The only thing I can say that really helps is
Mm,
when I keep my weight down. Now, I never have much of a
uh,
weight problem, but I do now because after the surgery,
mm,
it screwed up my appetite and I started eating like I'm not doing it now, but I was just eating all
mm,
kinds of stuff that overdoing it. It was good food, but
mm.
just overdoing it. Ate a bunch of
Yeah.
weight. It probably put on about 10 pounds. And anyway, I
Okay.
have found that over the years that when I lose weight, even even 3 or 4 pounds, I can feel the difference in my climbing.
Sure. Yeah, that's 4 pounds less that you have to carry up with you. That makes a difference.
Your video just went out or something. Well, there you go. Um,
Yeah, I was just saying that that's 4 pounds that you have to carry up with you on the wall. So if you don't have those 4 pounds, then you probably climb a bit better.
so yeah, so like typically what I've done, I mean, I'm not immune to eating certain junk food. I mean, the, I'm lucky in that ever since I've been a kid, believe it or not, I've never been into eating anything candy or sugar. Never was
Hmm.
appealing to me, even as a child. Not many people, not many guys can say that.
Yeah, no.
So now, what I am uh, a sucker for is chips, potato chips,
Ah,
corn chips,
sure.
anything like that. And um, so typically, when I start getting into a mode of trying to accomplish a big climb or whatever it is, I cut that stuff out. I just won't even have it around. I mean, I
Hmm.
don't. If I have a bag of chips around, if I buy a bag of chips, I know they're there and I'll eat them. So I just don't buy them.
Yeah, yeah. The best way of diet control is to not have stuff around that enables cheating. Take away the poison, and it's a lot easier to manage one's self control. Moving on, Lee, it is you have dedicated the last several decades to climbing, and then also training and fine tuning your performance at a high level. You also maybe move to a place which allows you to climb very consistently, and I mean that kind of dedication doesn't come without sacrifice. Anything in particular you yeah, that comes to mind where you made sacrifices to allow you to pursue your goals?
I think that about 10 or 15 years ago, and before that, um, I think that I uh, sacrificed some personal relationships a little bit. That
Mm,
I didn't put my energy into fostering or um, growing my personal relationships with some of my relatives, some of my friends,
mm.
etc. But then about 10, 15 years ago or so, um, I, I changed. I was more interested in spending more time with family, spending more time with friends, and putting my energy into some other pursuits too.
Sure. I believe you are a talented pianist. Is that one of those things that you've gotten back into?
Yeah, I play a lot of piano. I have a grand piano in my home. I practice religiously. So again, I approach the piano like I do climbing. I just,
Sure.
yeah. So I'm pretty goal oriented. Probably why
Yeah.
I'm somewhat successful in the things that I pursue.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. It,
I just apply myself however way I can. I have a piano instructor that I
okay.
work with, and
Ah.
yep. So when I try, and again, as usual, people have asked me this. I have a piano group of friends that I hang out with, and one of them recently asked me, like, Lee, why do you always pick these really ridiculously hard pieces? And I go, well, I guess because I'm goal oriented. I mean, I say, why can't I play like the professionals? And I have more I have compromised hands. I've got arthritis in my
Oh,
fingers.
okay.
I've got a
Okay.
condition which I'm thinking about right now because of my back surgery. I don't want to deal with it, but I have a condition called Dupuytren's in my hands,
Mm.
which causes one of my fingers to curl in, which is not very good for
Oh,
playing piano. But I work around it.
sure.
So, but yeah, I like the challenge of picking up playing really hard pieces on the piano.
Amazing. That's amazingly. I started playing the congas last year, and I feel like learning how to play good music is one of those things on my checklist. I learned how to salsa dance after a climbing trip to Cuba, and I obsessed over it for many years. And now I think maybe in my next decade, I think I'll probably either I continue playing the congas, and I hope to pick up another
I
instrument
used to play
and maybe.
congas. Yeah, I used
Sorry.
to play the conga and tumbas. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I used to really be into that a long time ago.
Oh
Yeah,
really?
yeah,
Yeah. I love banging away at my congas.
yeah.
Best. I mean, best way to get a best break I can find from getting away from my computer during the day, and then play the congas,
Mhm.
and then get back to work or whatever else I'm doing. Actually, it's I have a friend who's also a climber, and we always said, "Hey, Tony, you have such strong fingers, and you don't seem to do any finger training." And he said, "Well, he plays the piano, and he actually does play the piano quite well. And according to him, the strength he uh, he develops playing the piano transfers over to rock climbing." And I wonder if that is if there's any truth in that.
Well, actually, there's something that's interesting about what piano playing. So I didn't. I got my grand piano about. I guess it's been 20 years already. But when I started sport climbing a lot, I developed elbow tendonitis. You ever had
Mm.
that?
I haven't had elbow tendinitis. I have the shoulder arthritis.
Uh,
That's
my shoulders
I
have
think more
always
than
been okay,
plenty.
but I got really bad elbow tendonitis for a while, and everybody was giving me
Sure.
all these methods for trying to get rid of it,
Yeah.
using rubber bands and using
Hmm.
various uh, physical therapy type things, and nothing really worked.
Yeah.
And then I got a
Yeah.
grand piano, and I noticed after playing for about a month, the elbow
Hmm.
tendonitis went away.
Oh.
You know, wait, how did that happen? So
Yeah.
if you think about it, a piano, you're doing antagonistic movements all the time. You're picking up your fingers all the time to play
Yeah.
the piece.
Sure. Ah.
And you're
Yep.
doing similar things like you do with a
Yep.
rubber band, except how long can you handle that? I mean, you sit there for 5 minutes maybe and you do rubber band.
It's the most boring thing. Yes, you're right. The rubber band stretching things you're talking about. Yeah, it's the most boring
But
thing.
then you play
Yeah.
piano, and was really into it. I practiced for an hour to 2 hours a day. And then I noticed after a month that my tendonitis went away. And ever since,
That's
I've never
crazy.
never came back.
That's crazy. That's great. Wow. Yeah, that's some let's say very very cutting edge left field finger rehab exercise. Go learn to play the sorry, not finger rehab, elbow tendinitis rehab exercise. Hey, go and enroll in some piano classes, and then maybe that's how you will take care of your tendinitis for good. Um, Lee, curious, maybe in the last several years, has there been any kind of new belief or behavior that has, or habit that has improved your life? Anything outside of what we've talked about already?
Um, Not really. I mean, I guess that. one of the things that I feel like I have I can't say that I've mastered it or anything, but I think I'm learning is the ideology of acceptance. I have to accept certain things. So part of
Mm,
me, of course, as we discussed, is that age is just a number. You never know how well you can do if you don't really apply yourself. But sometimes you just have to accept. Like, I have to accept that at this point in my climbing career, for example, I'm never going to climb a 514 again. It's just not going to happen.
mhm,
Now, I wouldn't rule it out, but I would say
mhm,
it's ruled out. I mean, I have to
mhm,
accept certain things. But, uh, and I
mhm,
think besides climbing, I just have to accept that I'm just not I'm going to keep working on it. I'm not going to
mhm.
just solidify. There's a fine line between acceptance where you are, but at the same time, non-acceptance. I don't know if that makes any sense. So,
No, I get it. It's acceptance, but you're not resigned to it. I kind of get it. It's like you will accept the outcome, but you will keep fighting against it.
right, but at some point, you can't fight to the point where you're going to hurt yourself, either
True.
mentally or physically. And I feel like um, I've been working on that. I also, the
Got
other
it.
thing that I'd say that I've done, and now that I think about it, that I've to improve my life more is, I mean, uh, up until I would say maybe like you're probably right, in the last 7 years, 8 years, something like that, maybe 10, is I focus more on flexibility, on trying to maintain
Oh,
flexibility, stretching, um,
sure.
physical therapy. I mean, I used to just like, I don't need to stretch that much. I'm fine. And no, I'm not fine. Flexibility is important. I work with a physical trainer, not just physical therapy, but I have a woman here who's a dear friend of mine, and she has an athletic training facility. And over the years, I've been working with her. Matter of fact, she moved here about 8, 9 years ago. So ever since she moved here for the last 8 years or so, I've been periodically working at her gym. And it's a private gym. It's not open to the public like a normal
Hmm.
gym. You can't
Yeah.
just walk in
Yeah.
there and say, "Hey, here's my $20 and I'll work out for the day." No, you have to you have to get a private lesson, and then you have to be involved in the group and it has to work for you. So it's
Hmm.
like it's not a membership. It's you just
Yeah.
yeah. She's a physical trainer, and so I've realized that I think a lot of people that get older realize that they're losing some flexibility, or maybe they need to put more energy into their their ability to bend, to move more efficiently, and
Lee, I am doing that now, like mobility training and all the physio that
mhm,
I've been, it's become an important part, a vital part of my training. And honestly, it became non-optional. It became non-optional where, simple movements, which one took for granted, even 10 years ago in my mid 30s, early 30s, were not that simple anymore.
mhm,
Uh, yeah, I think all of us should be doing mobility work, and the sooner we do it, the better. And then, again, uh, seeking out specialists, seeking out trainers who actually can analyze our movements, our anatomy, and prescribe, a plan to work on our weakest links. So I think awesome, awesome, yeah, badass. I mean, yeah, never too late. Never too late to start mobility. I keep telling my mom that. My mom is a couple of years shy of you, and I'm like, Mom, if you don't do these mobility things now,
mhm.
they're going to be uh, limiting your lifestyle very soon. So yeah, whether it's a climbing goals or it's just simple lifestyle goals, I think mobility and physiotherapy is so critical to maintaining our quality of life. uh, we're nearing the end of our time. Just some fun questions, Lee. What has maybe in recent memory, what has been the best use of $100?
Best use of $100?
Yes. Where have you spent $100 that have given you, the most satisfaction?
Um, oh, jeez. Uh,
Could be a little bit less than 100. Could be a little bit more than 100.
right. Um, I don't know. Nothing comes to my mind. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Let's move on. Let's move on. Next rapid fire question here. What's the best gift that you have received,
What's the
and the best gift that you have given
best that I've received and best that I've been given?
in recent memories?
Um, well, I don't know if it's a gift, but I think the best gift I've received is my spouse, my wife. For many,
Mm.
many years, I felt like I never really met a woman who I really wanted to spend that much time with.
Hmm.
And when I met her, and it just clicked. And I think that's a gift from the world. The best gift I've ever given, I think, was, at least most people have told me that. So my mom is no longer with us, but
Hmm.
taking care of my mom when she needed me.
Mm.
So
Yep.
I I moved her up here. So when I moved here in
Hmm.
1999, I moved her up here with me. And I
Okay.
built an add-on apartment for her on my house. And that
Mm.
was my gift to her, to live with me. And I
That's
took
a
care of her for a year and a half.
life changing, gift. Uh, Lee, tell me about three most influential people in your life and how they impact you. And I think your wife, I'm guessing, is already one of them. Maybe, maybe two other people.
Could you
That's
repeat that
great.
though?
Yeah, yeah. Three of the most influential people in your life. So your wife is one of them, I'm guessing. Maybe two other
Well, yeah,
people.
of course. So my best friend, who doesn't live here, he lives in Santa Fe. His name
Mm.
is Doug. And I met him, oh God, we've known each other now for 40 years at least. And he has influenced me in the sense that he's been a very good friend, of course. He's a very dear friend of mine. I feel like he would do anything for me if I needed him, and he has. But more than that, even,
Hmm.
is that he's very wise. He's very thoughtful about things. And so whenever I have had some issue going on, and recently I have one that I brought up with him, he always has a very sobering way of talking about it, a very realistic way of
Hmm.
looking at things. So that's one person. Um, I have a lot of people who I value friendship very highly. So if I feel like somebody is a good friend, then they're influencing me.
100%. Yeah, we are social creatures, and yeah, we are not so smart when we don't surround ourselves with good people and good friends.
Well, I just
Lee, do you read book? Go ahead.
go ahead.
Just moving on. Are you like a book reader, or do you watch TV, or things on the internet? If you read books, curious, any good book that you have read recently or are reading
So
that you would
you bring
recommend?
up a good subject. So up until about, oh, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, maybe 15, I didn't read hardly any books or anything. Um, I was addicted to doing crossword puzzles, and I would
Okay.
read Climbing Magazine, Rock and Ice Magazine, Outdoor Mag.
Okay.
I more or less keep up with politics, but just on the news or whatever. And then starting at about 15 years ago, I started reading, and I just that I've been an avid reader ever since. And ever since my back surgery,
Hmm.
um, I've been reading like, well, now I'm not because I'm more active now, but I was reading 2 books a week, starting in
Hmm.
November, December, into the early part of this month. And so I read a lot of books.
Okay.
Um,
Any good book you would recommend to the listeners?
well, so I am attracted to nonfiction and political books or other books that
Hmm.
are real. I don't like fiction particularly, unless it's
Hmm.
historical novels or something like that. So
Hmm.
one very interesting book that I just read, which is a brand new book pretty much that came out, was a book called Oath and Honor by Liz Cheney.
Oh, I heard about that
Mhm.
book. Yes, Liz Cheney's book.
And she was
Yes,
right
yes,
there in
yes.
the insurrection on January 6th.
Yep. Yeah.
And what she has to say is it's a remarkable book. So if you're into that sort of thing, I would highly recommend that book. The other book that I read recently that was recommended to me, which has nothing to do with politics, is and actually it was Michael Kennedy. You know who Michael Kennedy is.
I think so.
So anyway, Michael lives here. He used to be the used to own Climbing Magazine years ago. Anyway, he lives here, and he's a good friend of mine. He recommended the book that Katie Brown wrote,
Ah, yeah. I didn't read the book, but I remember hearing
Unravel. Is
Katie
the name of the
Brown.
book.
Yes,
Unravel.
it talks about her like Christian upbringing and all those things.
For what? Sorry. She
Her Christian upbringing.
talks about her. The big thing she talks about is the relationship she had with her mother and
Mm,
climbing, and how badly she felt about herself and how conflicted she was
mhm,
during her upbringing, which she felt was very unhealthy. And what's interesting
mhm,
about the book is she really, really bears her soul in this book. And she's very, I have met her once,
mm.
and other people that have met her said the same thing, that she's very shy. She doesn't feel comfortable talking much about her life in public.
Yeah,
Yet she felt extremely
yeah.
comfortable talking about herself in depth in the
Mhm,
book.
mm.
And so I read that about a month ago, and that was a very, very interesting book. It's a really insight.
Excellent. No, I think when I first heard about that book, I made a mental note, and thanks for the reminder. I think Yeah, Liz Cheney's book and Katie Brown's book. I mean, Katie Brown, I remember when I first went to the Red, Katie
Oh, yeah.
Brown was famous because she had done like the youngest FA of youngest onside of a
Yeah,
514
she,
as a female, or the only onside, which then got downgraded. But I think, yeah, she was the only female to
yeah,
have ever onside at that grade.
oh, Omaha Beach is the route,
Omaha Beach,
which I
yeah,
actually,
yeah, the Motherlode,
actually worked
yeah.
on that route a little bit at the Motherlode.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
but the problem was is that the weather was not conducive, and I felt like I didn't want to spend my entire vacation trying to do this one route that was far away from where I lived.
sure,
So, and also the weather
sure.
wasn't good, but I'm actually astounded that she cited that route.
Yeah, yeah. And Lee, final
Yeah.
question: if there was a gigantic billboard
Uh,
where
but
you could add any message that you wanted, what would you say on that message for others?
okay, well, this is getting to be a little bit political, if that's okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Say whatever you want.
Um, our home is in danger.
Home is in
Yeah,
danger.
the earth.
Okay. The earth is in danger. Okay.
It's actually the earth is not in danger. We're in danger.
Oh, we are in
In terms of
danger.
surviving.
Okay.
And this ties into a book that I read a few years ago. What the heck's the name of that book? Um, um, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a book about why civilizations fail.
Okay.
It's a big,
I think I might have read that book. It's a bit of a heavy
yeah,
book.
very heavy book.
It's a long book.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I read that maybe a decade ago
The
or
name just
so
slips my
when I
mind.
was traveling. I remember that book.
Collapse, I think. Is that the name of the book? I think it's Collapse. So it's all about how cultures collapse and why they collapse. So
Yeah.
the book outlines 5
Yeah.
reasons, and almost all cultures, if you violate like 3 of those reasons or more, that you will not prevail.
Mm.
And at this point,
Yeah, if I remember now, it's a Jared Diamond book who also wrote
that's it.
Guns. I think Guns, Germs, and Steel, and
Right.
yeah, his books are deeply researched. So if he says something, one should listen to it.
And I feel like that, however, I would say the message on the billboard would have to be something to the effect of that we need to support leaders, we need to support things and changing our lives however we can do that will accept the science of global climate change.
Mm-hmm.
I
Sure.
mean, another thing could be that, you never know what's possible until you try and really apply yourself. And applying yourself means you have to really go for it. But we won't have a world to go for it in if we don't address this global
Mm-hmm.
climate change. And so, without mentioning any names, there are certain people that deny that this is even a problem, that man causes
Yep.
problems, even though it's completely obvious that we do. And
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it's something to address. If
Yeah.
we don't address it,
Yeah.
I mean, all the science out there is saying that that's even worse than we thought it was going to be. I mean, we've got the highest temperatures on the planet in history.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the worst storms ever. Fires are the worst than ever. And yet people go, well, it's just a
Mm-hmm.
phase. A phase? Well, wait a second. If it's the warmest uh, summer on record in 120,000 years, you don't think that's significant? It's not the warmest on record in the last 100 years or 1,000 years. It's in 120,000 years of any kind of history that we have. So anyway, I
Yeah.
think that would be my billboard message is Wake up.
I think that's a great. I think just that right there, that those two words. I think those would be deeply impactful for the people
Yeah.
who see it. Lee, it's been a fantastic conversation. I know the weekend is calling. I don't want to keep you any longer, but thanks so much for coming on today. And
Well,
you inspire us. You inspire me. Please keep doing the good
well,
work.
thanks for thinking of
Thank you for all you
it.
do.
Appreciate it. And
Thanks a
hope to
lot.
see you out at the cracks.
Yes, as soon as my shoulder is healed up and I'm back in action, I will come over to Glendale and
Come over, wife.
and look you up.
I'll probably be out there
look you
summer,
up
I'm
for-
assuming.
Yes. It would be a total honor. Thanks again,
Okay,
Lee.
thank you.
Take
All
care.
right. Bye.